Hey, Natalie, what do you think of my selfie?
It looks like someone beat you up with a selfie stick.
Oh, wah, wah.
But seriously, you make Ecclesian look so good.
Aw, thanks, Nat. In this episode, we're delighted to interview writer and disability activist Melissa Blake, who became a social media sensation in 2019 after an article she wrote resulted in trolling on her personal account. The negative feedback was extremely hurtful, but rather than concede to negativity, she decided to post a selfie every day for the next 365 days using the hashtag mybestselfie. Her response was both a celebration and defense of who she is as a disabled person, and her campaign has drawn not only positive response, but has garnered attention for disability awareness and acceptance by changing the way we see and talk about disability. Melissa has written a new book titled Beautiful People, My 13 Truths About Disability, that releases on Tuesday, March 5, 2024. We'd like to mention that our episode page is a photo mosaic of Melissa using pictures from her social media posts. We are delighted to welcome Melissa to our podcast.
I see Melissa.
Hi.
Hello.
Melissa,
Hi.
welcome.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely can.
Yes.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for being on
Hi.
the podcast. We are so excited.
Of course. I'm so excited to meet you guys.
Yeah. This is
And
going to be.
Natalie, I love your illustration there.
I did it for you.
The
You
one that you just
inspired
did?
this.
I love. Yes. Well, good. I loved it. It was really good.
I don't know if you remember, but we had this idea about like putting together some Melissa Blake fan club pins, and I'm actually thinking about ordering them and getting some over to you. But I did want to ask you if you were okay.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, it'd be fun to put that
Yeah,
together.
of course.
Yeah, set those out.
I would love that. Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, well, cool. I am
Yes, I
excited.
would love that.
So, Melissa, first, thank you so much for coming and being on the podcast. We are really excited about that. I did want to show you your pre-release book. We're still going through it. Natalie's been reading the online version, and I have your book. But we've been tabbing everything and kind of going through and making notes. I'm trying to find pages that are like good representatives of that. But all of the content, we're just trying to make notes and see where conversations are raised. But there's so much to talk about, and I can tell you. When you released the foreword for the book, I think that alone would have given us enough content for the entire call. So.
I really appreciate those. I really appreciate those questions. Yeah.
Well,
that you sent me.
We talk about the content of books like yours a lot, and they just end up being conversations when we're in the car or dinner, and what I like about it is that the issues first are important, and but the other part of it is that I think in order to really like internalize it, discussions have to happen, and that's one of the things that I love is that what you're doing is creating more conversation around really important topics about disability rights and disability justice that I think we need to see more of that. And I'm just very respectful of the work that you've done. And I also am, obviously a fan. So we're all, just really excited that you're here.
Thank you. It means a lot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Nat, do you want to start with the first question?
So first question is, you love wearing polos, obviously. If you were to design your own brand of polos, what symbol would you adorn your own new clothing line?
This is a really good question because I think a lot of times like clothing and fashion for disabled people is not very adaptive, and which I talk about a lot in the book. How it's really hard for me to wear certain clothes. Like I can't wear jeans because it's hard to button them up, and a lot of times like clothing is very restrictive, on my body. So and polos I found are really comfortable. They're usually big enough so I don't feel like when I'm sitting down in my wheelchair, I don't feel like it's constricting me. So I think honestly, like that's why I fell in love with polo so much, is because that was one of the first things that I could wear and really, felt like, okay, this is a fashion piece that I like, and it wasn't necessarily something I'm wearing just because I have to, because it feels better on me. It felt better on me, and it was a fashion, piece that I liked. So if I had to put a symbol on it, I think I would do something disability wise. Even like a smiley face, like just and like maybe like a smiley face, and at the bottom I could say like "Hi friends," because I always start my reels saying "Hi friends." So then maybe I could have like a smiley face, just something like cheerful and that reflects my personality.
Yeah.
I
I
think.
love that. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Yeah, I love. I haven't worn polo shirts for a while because I. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, see, smiley face. Yeah, exactly. I
That's
love
awesome.
it.
That is awesome. We're gonna have to help you work on developing that new clothing line. Okay. So next question. You've talked a lot about candy corn, and to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of candy corn. I've even thought of like taking all of our candy corns and sending them to you because. But when you indulge, and I'm gonna guess it's around Halloween. How much candy corn would be too much candy corn? I mean, what's your limit when it comes to
Oh,
food you like?
I can only eat about a handful at a time. So, but I really, it's just the right amount of sweet, I think, and that's why I like it.
Oh, that's awesome. No worries. We
Yeah.
currently, I think, dark chocolate Oreo cookies are the like favorite around here. I'll go and sneak 3 of them when I shouldn't be eating any, but that's my big pull.
I know. So, Natalie, what's your favorite?
Oh, I really love Reese's
Yes, me too.
Yeah, yep.
or Kit Kats.
Yes, those are good too. That's actually my two favorite, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, those are
Definitely
my
a chocolate house
top 2
here.
candies.
Yep.
Okay. Matt, do you want to ask the next question? We know the answer.
Yeah, do you own a selfie stick?
Surprisingly, this might shock people, but I do not own a selfie stick. And I really should get one. Like, I don't own a selfie stick, and I want because like when I take my videos like for reels on Instagram, I
Yeah,
just like prop up my iPad like on
Oh, right.
something, and so
yeah,
it's very bare bones. So I think if I got like one of those those like stands that you can put on a desk and put your phone on, I think I really need to up my game. So
yeah,
that might be that might be on my list of things to get, is like a selfie stick and like a tabletop
yeah.
phone holder thing.
So, what TV show or movie do you want to be on, and what role would you like to play?
TV show or movie? Does it have to be an existing TV show?
No,
Because like
no.
Anything you want.
Yeah, it could be anything.
I want. Well, I would like to see a TV show like with a disabled lead, but the show doesn't center on their disability. Because I think a
Yeah,
lot of times when we see disabled characters, they're there to either like inspire the other characters,
yeah,
or they're meant to for people to feel sorry for. And I think we can tell disabled stories in a way that doesn't focus solely on their disability.
Right.
That's kind of what I would like to see.
Yeah.
And now, if we're talking about shows that are on TV right now, I think SVU, I think would be, like you were saying, SVU would be a good one to be on. I would like to be on that show because I've seen I've seen almost all the episodes, and I think it's one of my favorite shows. And I think it would be fun. It'd just be fun to like play like you said, like an investigative journalist on that show. And yeah, I watch a lot of TV.
Yeah.
Like my mom and I are always watching like a new show.
Melissa, I really am hoping that we can pitch that on the podcast here later on. But I think it would be incredible to do that. The comment that you made about disabled actors who are kind of in a very boxed role, for character development purposes.
Right.
I agree with you. There are. I'm happy to see movies coming out with more disability representation, but that idea about having a mainstream character who goes through, whatever the story plot is, but happens to have a disability is going to be
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Totally love that.
Yeah.
So the next question, Natalie's got some supporting stuff to show on this one, but with the Pez collection that you have, and I want to start by saying that having a custom Melissa Blake Pez is really freaking cool. I was really
Wasn't that nice? I know.
Yeah.
I really can't believe someone
made that.
sent me that. Like that was one of my favorite things I've ever gotten.
Yeah, it was really cool. But we were going to ask, do you have a story about a favorite Pez dispenser or?
Well, I like the Muppet ones. I'm a big fan of I used to watch the Muppets all the time when I was a kid, and I also like yes, I like it. I'm actually looking at it right now. My Pez's. I also like the holiday ones, like when they come out with like the Easter line, they have bunnies, or like the Christmas line. I like those themed ones as well.
Oh yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. I also had a Miss Piggy one, actually.
I have that too. Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to it. I think I lost it. And I'm sad about that. But I had that one, and I think I had a Brave one from the Pixar movies, and I think I lost that one too.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah. I think I lost that one too. But now, one of my sister's favorites and her only Pez is Bob Ross. So
I didn't know they even made a Bob Ross Pez. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. But he's out there in the wild in Pez.
Yeah.
And,
That's cool.
I have all the Sings, so they're one of my favorites. And then the Troll collection, I do have all the Pez's to them as well. So
cool. How many are there?
There's a whole bunch. There's about 3 in each. So
wow.
3. There's about maybe 7 each. Pez's for trolls.
Now when I was a kid. Yeah. Now when I was a kid, trolls really were just coming into popularity when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And do you have any of the original, the little dolls?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, there's is the Funko Pop right there, Natalie, or did we bring it upstairs?
No, it's right here. It's all the way down.
So, Melissa, we collect Funko Pops too, but one of the Funko Pops that we have on the desk where Natalie is a original troll. So we definitely have some stock of that. Nat is a huge fan of DreamWorks Trolls, and she has a lot of Trolls memorabilia. So that's
cool. I know.
but Funko did a Pop Funko, a original troll from the. So there's that guy right there. So he has rainbow hair.
Oh, neat. Yeah. Yeah, trolls were all the rage when I was like 10.
Yeah. And I first got introduced to them when DreamWorks got the license to make a film about them. Then
cool.
Then I got introduced to the original troll.
How many movies have there been?
There's been 3 films. The 3rd movie just came out last November, and there's been 2 holiday specials.
And I assume that you've seen them all?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's also a TV series that Natalie's watched all of the seasons of, and
oh wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's 2 TV series as well. Yeah. It's a huge franchise.
I guess the empire has really expanded then.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. So our last question, Nat, do you want to?
You answered this in your book, but is there such a thing as a bad selfie?
You know, I don't think there is. Like and you've probably seen on social media. Like I'm not afraid to post like a selfie that might not be, you know, the perfect angle or have the perfect lighting. I think those can sometimes be the best because they're authentic, they're in the moment, and I think I never want my selfies to be like staged photo shoots. I want it just to be like spontaneous in the moment, and I think those are the best selfies.
Yeah,
I love that. And I think one of the comments that I was going to make was that your messages that you include with the photos are also very like connecting.
Yeah.
And that.
Thank you. Yeah, I like the combination of the picture and then, you know, have a little, you know, message in the caption that I used to do. I do with it.
Yeah. And that I will tell you that that's something that makes you very unique in the social media world, that you really are, I think, bridging the a gap that we see a lot in social media. You know, people try to portray themselves a certain way, and you're just very real and very connected. And
well, thank you. That means a lot to me because I sometimes I try to be the person that I would want to follow on social media, and I think the people I gravitate towards the most on social media are the people that are authentic and that are real and that, you know, put themselves out there and they don't try to, like, you know, filter everything and have everything be perfectly curated, and because that's not real life. And I think people now more than ever are craving something real and authentic.
Yeah. I think we've gotten past the bubble, hopefully. So that's awesome.
Hopefully, knock on wood. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump into the deep dive, Nat. I think we could probably talk about taking up space. That's a good segue to this next question.
So let's talk about the concept of taking up space. There's a huge difference between thinking of oneself as taking space versus truly being proud of who you are. Can you talk a little bit about the self-realization that goes into that, how worthlessness can be...
Worthiness.
Oh, sorry. Worthiness. Yeah, sorry. Can be something that is realized and has to be lived.
That's a really good point. And I think I talk a lot. I have a whole chapter in the book about my journey towards self-acceptance. And I think it's not a straight shot. Like, we're not born and then we automatically, you know, have self-esteem and feel like we're worthy. I think it's a process that we go through by living. And I'm not sure that there's ever a end point to it. Because I feel like I have a lot more, you know, self-worth and self-esteem now than I did even 10 years ago. And then I just think, well, you know, if I keep going on this journey of life, I think in 10 years, I'm going to have, you know, even more lived experiences, and that is going to contribute to, you know, feeling even more worthy and feeling like you know, you can take up space.
Absolutely.
And I also think, also like with taking up space, I feel like a lot of times people think like, you know, you don't necessarily need to earn it. Like, cause I think like you already, you deserve to, you know, especially disabled people, we deserve to be at the table and to be present and be, you know, vocal. And I think a lot of times society doesn't want us to.
Yeah.
Because like, I think the topic of disability makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And I think a lot of times that comes from just either they don't know someone who's disabled, or they just don't know, you know, much about disability. And I think by talking about it, I'm hopefully am breaking down some of those walls, and again, like furthering this conversation of what it means to be disabled, and you know, how people, especially non-disabled people, how they can show up and for us and help us, you know, as we make the world a more accessible, more just place for disabled people.
Absolutely. The one of the previous interviews that we did was with Ben Matlin on his book Disability Pride.
Oh yes, I follow him on. Yeah, I follow him online.
He's great. But he talks about that concept of pride, you know, moving away from this idea of taking just taking space and being proud, like you own and you deserve to be where you are today. And I have to say that I think that that's probably one of the biggest most impactful messages that I read from that in order to make change, you really have to belong. You have to claim and justify you're here. And that's incredible.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of times, if I looked at myself and felt about myself the way society feels about disabled people, it would be soul crushing. I mean, like, if you think about just how society doesn't really expect much of disabled people, and I think so often, I personally, I feel like I'm have to build myself up, because I can't look to society. Does that make sense? Like,
it does.
As I work on my self-esteem, I hopefully society can see that, and hopefully that will have a ripple effect for other people.
Yeah.
There was just recently for us, there was some bills going through Utah legislature that were talking about ideally moving people with disabilities, or with whether it was learning disabilities or considered special needs, out of classrooms. And I was really upset about that, because the person who said it was an education proponent, and it just was a very sort of thoughtless thing to say, and it wasn't very reflective of history. One of the kind of follow-ups for us was that there was the and I'm reading this on the screen so I don't mess it up, but Lois Curtis, who advocated in a court case to confirm that people who had disabilities should not be segregated. And this was back, I'm probably not going to remember when.
In the 90s.
But to go, back to like the 50s and 60s, when families were really pushing to have mainstream public education for their family members who had disabilities, or if it was a disabled person advocating for themselves. We went from that in, I'd say, the late 60s to getting the first version of IDEA pushed out in the 70s, and now I don't know, it just seems unusual that 50 years later we're still talking about that and educating people. So
yeah, I know it feels like for every step forward we take like 3 steps back. And when I was in school in the 80s, it was a time, it was a big push for inclusion. And so that's what I grew up with, like, in the classroom. And I think that was, it just seemed, like, why would you not want them, in the mainstream classroom?
Right.
Like, that's what I always wondered. Yeah. And so then to see such backwards thinking from people that, like, no, they should be, in their own classroom. It feels such like a step back.
Yeah.
And it feels very, ignorant on their part that, like, they obviously haven't taken the time to educate themselves on, like, disability rights and all that.
And I really do think that that's what it is that without any experience of any kind of integration or inclusion, people are ignorant, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that they simply haven't experienced or know what what it looks like to live in a more inclusive environment. So that's something that we advocate pretty strongly for. But I definitely think that it's a message that we have to. It's never going to change. We're always going to have to be educating and
right.
That to that point. So
exactly.
I do have kind of it's kind of a weird left field question, but when I was reading this, one of the things that I was thinking about when you were writing in one of your chapters, say the word disabled, I started thinking about the gender identification in the Pride community. So a lot of times when we are meeting a person, we may ask what are their pronouns, and
right.
Yeah, with disability, you were talking about how some people prefer to be identity first. So a person with a disability versus, or I'm putting that backwards, a disabled person versus the person first, which is a person with a disability. But do you
right.
kind of feel like maybe those are the pronoun questions of the disability community? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think because it's so much tied to identity, and I think how a disabled person wants to be identified, and it's interesting because, like, when I was younger, like maybe like in my teens and early 20s, I always wanted to be a person with a disability, and now I've completely shifted the other way, and I'm disabled. And looking back at that trajectory, I now realize that I wanted to be first a person with a disability because I thought that that's what society thought I should be. And that was my internalized ableism, thinking that, disability is unaccepted, disabilities are bad, so I should want to distance myself as much as I can from my disability. And now, as I'm, like we've talked about before, with the lived experience, as I'm living life and as I'm getting older, I'm seeing, well, I am disabled, and my disability does, influence every facet of my life, and it's such a big part of who I am, and that is not a bad thing. And I think so much the word disabled makes people so uncomfortable. Like, just the word disabled, like, I'm surprised that they don't physically recoil. Because, like, anytime I talk about my disability on social media, 9 times out of 10, I will get at least one comment saying, "Oh, I don't think of you as disabled," and then they'll use one of those euphemisms I hate, like, "You're just differently abled," or "You're just special needs." And it's like they didn't even read my caption at all, like with what I was talking about with disabilities. And I think I know a lot of that comes from also like their ignorance that they might not have had any, experience with disabilities before. So that's why I say the word disabled so much, is because I really want that word to become desensitized. And I think the more we say it, the more that people will hopefully catch on and think, well, disabled isn't a bad word. It just describes, someone. Like, I have red hair. That's another descriptor. Like, and I think if we take away the stigma associated with the word, I think that will go a long way towards helping disabled people.
Do you watch Pitch Perfect? Have you seen that movie?
I saw the first one.
Okay.
Haven't seen the other. How many have there been?
There's three. There's three movies.
Yeah, but in
I like the first one.
Yeah, the first one was really funny, but I think that was the one where they were talking about gingers have no souls, and that was one of the lines in the film. I don't know if you're that, but anyway, we're big pitch.
Yeah, I have to watch. Yeah.
Nat, why don't you jump on number 3?
Now, so Special Olympics came out with the Spread the Word campaign in 2009 called Spread the Word to End the Word. The campaign was later updated in 2019 to spread the word inclusion. So they went from a negative to a positive. Why are the words that describe us so powerful? And also, if you could call the Special Olympics something else, what name would you suggest?
I've been thinking about. I was after I read the questions that you sent. I was thinking about that, and I'm stumped as to an alternative for Special Olympics. And
go ahead.
I was thinking about that, and I'm not. It has to be a different word, like, because I never like the word, like, when you talk about special needs. They're not special; they're just someone's need.
Right.
But there has to be a better. I don't know, and that was a really good question because it stumped me.
And Melissa, I can tell you, I just added this in because really I think what it is that there's good intention by groups, and it's culturally representative of who we are when words like special are adapted to any person with a disability. But for Special Olympics, the reason this came up was that in terms of Olympics, there's the regular Olympics, and then you have Paralympics, which is the Olympics for people who have physical disabilities, and Special Olympics is the organization that caters more to people with intellectual disabilities. And I was just thinking that that word "special" is so dated. Where could that go if it wasn't called that? And maybe one example is that Natalie has cerebral palsy, and there's a soccer team that's a national cerebral palsy soccer teams. So they actually define their sports organization by the disability that represents the players. And I don't think that that's a bad thing, but when we look at Special Olympics, and I can't really see that they would call it like IDD Olympics. That sounds maybe
I see.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, but I just think though that culturally there's a lot of stuff. You mentioned in public education, we a lot of the time will call things like special needs classes, and that term again is outdated. So I just think that there's a lot culturally that we have to tackle. And I think it's an indication of, you know, how much further we have to go when we not only talk about ourselves. I think that's the first step, is self-identification. But when we start talking about groups of people and belonging, those are areas that are yet to be addressed.
Exactly, and I think that gets to, I think, why words are so powerful. And I think maybe part of it is because I'm a writer, so I deal with words, you know, obviously all the time when I'm writing.
Yeah.
But I really think that words have the power to shape, you know, who we are, and they also have the power to shape, you know, the world around us. And that's so important. And like, as I talked about in my book, like with the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, like the word disabled is like the only, you know, legally binding term, you know, that applies to the ADA. Like, so you can't, you know, if you say you have special needs, like those are not, you know, legally, those don't fall under the ADA. Like, so, and I think that's why also when we talk about the power of words, like they literally have the power to affect legislation.
Yeah.
And when we think of it in that scope, you know, then it takes on such a huge importance.
I really like that. That's good. So we've talked a little bit about the mantra about say the word disabled, and I was going to say I actually really love that. So you're probably best known for my best selfie as a hashtag, but I was going to say that say the word disabled was probably one that I would love to see more. I
would too, and I think I've seen the hashtag say the word before.
Yeah.
I think people have used that one to denote, you know, disabled and disability. And I think, and also that's another thing, like that, you know, that is important, you know, on social media as well. Like you can have a real impact, not just, you know, in the real world and in real life, but also on social media too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Which as we've seen, I think for me personally, like, it is so important for me to have like an impact on social media, because based on some of the comments I get, like people really need to be educated.
Yeah.
There's a sore lack of education, especially on social media, about disabilities.
So if I can just say, one of the things that really touched me in the book was your comment that there are people who you have followed that were part of building disability rights, and that your desire when you leave is to be able to pass on to a younger generation, you know, a better future for them. I really loved that you saw a very like, you know, like you step back and saw a big picture and are thinking about, you know, the next generation. I think a lot about like ADA and the disability rights legislation that we have, and I kind of feel like we're on this precipice of like the disability rights and disability justice 2.0. That there's going to be new pushes for you know, better representation with disabled representatives who can sort of carry the mantra of all legislation is disability legislation, and really bring more conversation back in you know, terms of like legal definitions and moving society. But I was just really moved by what you wrote in the book when you had mentioned that.
Well, because and that was always going through my mind as I was writing the book, is like, what would I want to tell my younger self, and then what would I want to tell, you know, the next generation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot, because and what was really sad, I think, as I talked about this in the book, is I never learned about, you know, the forerunners of the disability justice movement in school. Like I never knew anything about disability history. Like I didn't learn it until I was an adult. And
Right.
I think that is also something that's sorely lacking in education is, in history class, we learn about like, the American Revolution and, all these other things, but we don't talk about, the people who have really affected change when it comes to people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And when you think about like, 1 in 4 people are disabled, that's a large, community, a marginalized community that you're leaving out of the, of teaching history and teaching where we've been. And I always say, like, to figure out where you want to go, you have to know where you've been. And I think to move forward, we have to look back. And so at least that's what I was trying to do with my book is, talk a little bit about history and then also move us, forward.
Yeah, definitely love that. Now, do you want to take another question?
So, number 6, right?
Yeah, that'd be great. That's a good hook.
Are there changes you would like to see in the current ADA law that would improve lives? What does the next frontier of disability rights look like?
This is a good question. I think like a lot of times I'm really happy that we have the ADA, obviously, because I know it was a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I actually remember I was 9. I was 8, almost 9 when the ADA was passed. And so I lived like the first 8 years of my life without the ADA. And I was still I was really young when it passed. But I do remember my parents talking to me about it and talking about, how monumental this was. And I didn't really, I kind of understood what they were getting at, but again, I was only 8 years old.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I didn't really understand the full scope of, how this is going to, improve life for disabled
Still
people.
had a whole
But
life
as
to see that. Yeah, that definitely.
exactly. But as I grew up and I started, as I went to college and as I, went into the workforce, I started to see just how inaccessible society is. And I thought, oh, I'm so glad, that we have these, protections for disabled people. But and as I think I mentioned this in the book, like the ADA isn't really exactly enforceable. Like it's more an after the fact. So like what I want to see personally is like I want to see disabled people, being brought into these conversations. Like before they would, for example, like before they build a building, I want to see like disabled people being consulted about how to make it fully accessible and how to make it, exactly how it needs to be so people can actually utilize the building and disabled people can fully participate in society. Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
like a lot of times, like, things aren't changed until someone says, oh, there's not an elevator in this building. Like, so why didn't you build the building, with an elevator to begin with instead of having to go back and, retrofit the building to build an elevator?
Yeah, like make it more accessible for those
Yes.
who are in wheelchairs.
Yes, exactly. And I also think like the next frontier, I think, as we move forward, is going to be, I think, I thought about this a lot, like where do I see, the state of disability justice in like 10, 15 years? And I think obviously we're still going to be, I think, talking about the same things like accessibility and, acceptance and saying the word disabled. And I think that is also going to, how do I say it? Like, it's going to have to, bring in as well, like non-disabled allies. Because like that was my big thing. Like, disabled people have always had to advocate for themselves and to do so much of the work towards disability justice. And that can be exhausting at times. Like, I think I talk about this in the book. Like disabled people aren't, Google search, not the Google search engine.
Yeah.
Like, it can be exhausting to constantly have to advocate for yourself. And I think what I try to impart in the book is the allies are so important, because I feel like a lot of times society doesn't listen to disabled people.
Yeah.
And I think we saw this a lot with COVID. And disabled people have always been advocating for work from home. Can we work from home, because that can make it more accessible and accommodating. And people like bosses have always said, "Oh no, that's too much work. Like, you have to be in the office." And then when COVID hit, and suddenly people couldn't go into the office, and non-disabled people were saying, "Well, we need to work from home," then suddenly that became an option. Right. And where it could have been an option all along for disabled people, but again, they didn't listen to us. And so then I think we really need those allies to stand with us. Not necessarily, obviously, don't speak over us, but stand with us and join us in this fight.
Yeah. So to those points, this concept of unity in community is what we say a lot. But working,
I like that.
Yeah, working across different groups and building support for each other has always been something that we've been very strong about. And what was the other point? I think the other quote was nothing about us without us.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I love that. Nothing about us without us. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question, and this one we may need to give you an explainer, but I'm not sure if you're an Alanis Morissette fan, but when we were reading the book again, this came up in a conversation after a chapter, but
well, with my mom per se.
Yeah. But we were just discussing the whole sort of self-acceptance journey, and there's a song that Alanis Morissette has called "So Unsexy," and basically it's about a relationship where she has troubles accepting herself because she's looking to fulfill essentially somebody else's desires about who she is, and she doesn't feel the way that she experiences herself because of that pull, and it just seemed to resonate with some of the stuff that you talked about, and I know that you didn't call it out. Well, actually, I think you did, about magazines and, kind of like what magazines would write about and how that might make you feel, as a person with a disability, a person living in a wheelchair, maybe not feeling like you're being described in the, in the magazine, but there's a lot of consumerism, and I think one of the marketing strategies is always to kind of like make you feel a little bit insecure, to think that, right, skin isn't quite right.
More aspirational, something that they show you what you should aspire to. Yeah.
But I guess what I'm considering is that you've talked about internalized ableism, but I think that there's a lot of internalization, and that turns into judgmental behaviors from other people, and a lot of times it's kind of like they're trying to rank themselves over another person by being judgy or condescending. And it's almost it's an unfortunate nature of growing up that we experience that. I guess that's just one of the struggles that we live with, that we're never satisfied and that we tend to turn our insecurities on others. And I'm wondering
it is. Yeah.
factors into, what you're writing about, the awareness and the growth, the maturity that you're looking for.
It is, and I think a lot of times, like, we always, I don't know if other people do, but like, I always hear like society's, I always hear society's messages in my head about like, oh, you're too disabled, and you don't want to, it's such a bad thing, and who would ever want to be disabled, and you should hate being disabled. So I feel like I always hear society's, judgments in my head, and it can be overwhelming sometimes. And I think a lot of times when I was younger and maybe more impressionable, and I didn't have the level of self-acceptance that I have now, it did get overwhelming. And so I like I said before, I tried to distance myself from my disability, and I tried to be the at the very least the disabled version that society would accept. Like, I tried to be, this brave person, never complaining, always being very happy and peppy. And I guess I tried to be the most acceptable version of disability, in society. And that just, I didn't know it at the time, but that was really doing a disservice to both myself and the disability community.
Yeah. Well, but you do talk about being two things, that you can be disabled and you can be something else. And
exactly. Yeah.
I think that this is where, like, being proud, starts mattering a lot, that, you start accepting the complexity of identity, that you start accepting, who you are, and, embracing who you are, and rejecting some of the societal notions or the cultural notions that are presented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say.
Go ahead. And like you were talking about with, how two things can be true at the same time. Like that was really a revolutionary, lesson that I learned, and it took me a while. And my therapist was really the one that kind of helped me see that you can feel two ways at the same time, and opposite ways, and that's okay. Like, so I can be proud of my disability, but I can also get frustrated with it too. Yeah. And that's okay to feel both those things at the same time. And that was like an eye opener for me. Like, I can really feel two different ways at the same time, and like, it was really freeing to when I realized that's okay to feel, two different ways at the same time.
You can't fawn all over us when we're inspiring you, and turn the other cheek and ignore us when we really need your support as an ally. Is this part of pulling disabled people in a box, so to speak?
Yeah, this is a quote from the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily putting us in a box, but like, a lot of times, this happened with a post of mine from a few months ago. I was talking about, I don't know if you saw it, I was out and I saw the word handicap parking. And I hate handicap is another word that needs to just go away because it's so outdated and archaic. So I made a reel about that and saying, let's replace it with something like accessible parking, or, anything but the word handicap. And some people in the comments were saying that I was just being overly harsh, or that I was being too sensitive. And I feel like that happens a lot. Like, some of the posts, like when I'm talking about something good with my disability, people love that. Like, they love when I'm being, quote, inspiring to them. But then when I start to actually advocate and start to try to have these, harder, more complex conversations, then it's, oh, you're complaining. You're just being too harsh. Like, they only like disabled people if we're inspiring them. But they don't want to actually do the real work with us to dismantle ableism and to make it a little more accessible.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It makes sense. It's the bridge to hard work. To be quite frank, I think there's two trains of thought. People want to either burn it down and replace everything, or they want to work with the system and improve the system. And they both have their moments, but the handicap parking placards are a great example of something that definitely should be changed. And the odd part about that, I think, is that even when it doesn't affect them, just because it's a cultural norm, they want to push back and say, well, why should we change it? And
right.
I don't think that that's a very empathetic response. So part of it is like, teaching people why it's, and I hate that, because that
exactly
the whole thing about, advocacy fatigue. It's like you're always having to defend yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. And like, you get to a point where it's like, sometimes I do wonder, like, does society just want disabled people to, like, be, like, trying us out, like, to inspire them, and then, like, then they just kind of want to put us away and not see us unless we can be inspiring for them. And that's what gets frustrating for me.
Yeah. I definitely agree. This kind of came up in the book that you had another quote that selfies are a powerful tool for disabled people, and this was something that I really appreciated, and honestly, I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so inspired by well, not just the book, but your decision to post a selfie every day after the trolling occurred, and really what turned into this movement that is going on, but recognizing and normalizing differences in people is so important. We probably have a number of examples, but Natalie's older brother, my oldest son, has schizophrenia, and I follow the forum on schizophrenia in the Reddit community. And one of the things that I really love is that they have Selfie Sunday, and it was really impromptu, but somebody had posted a selfie, and some of the followers in the thread decided to share pictures of themselves, and it's actually turned into like a recurring post that you see on Sundays. And the idea really was just to say, see us. We're here. We're not
exactly. Yeah.
I think really love that, but but comparing it to what you're doing and the normalization that you're looking for, that it's awareness, that it's really just defending self, is well, I would say just celebrating and defending who you are, is a wonderful thing. And I love the fact that you decided that a selfie is one way that you can do that, and that it's not narcissistic, I think was a word that you would use.
It's not vain, it's not narcissistic. It's actually, like I said, a very powerful thing, because again, like, sometimes I feel like society thinks disabled people should be hidden away. Like, we still have these archaic views of disabled people. Like, they don't imagine that disabled people are out living and working and having relationships. And I think the more that society sees disabled people, the more it normalizes disabilities. And I think that's a big part of, why I started posting a selfie. Not just to get back at the trolls who said I shouldn't post pictures of myself. It was also to make this wider statement that, if we want real change, and if we want society to change how they view disabled people, they have to actually see disabled people. And I think that was my big thing is I'm going to be vocal. I have this platform. I'm going to use it to affect as much change as I can.
Absolutely. Matt, I mean, your role as an ambassador, I mean, do you feel it's kind of the same thing that you're...
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with the Special Olympics. We talk about like spreading awareness for those with intellectual and physical disabilities as well, and how we can help them get healthy, unified sports as well, and how they can build leadership opportunities as well.
Oh, neat. So how many years have you been an ambassador?
It was a 2-year commitment from from 2020 to 2022. It ended in at the USA Games in Orlando, Florida. But
wow.
Yeah, but
that's cool.
I'm more of an alumni now, but they will occasionally come back and ask me to do stuff. Like the most recent thing I did was they asked me to speak at a Zoom call for a Boys and Girls Club event with Special Olympics. Yeah, that was a while.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was a while ago, but that's sort of what it is right now.
Cool.
Yeah, but I would say though that one of the reasons that I'm so proud of this work that Natalie's doing is that seeing yourself as a leader and sort of transforming your identity to be one who would advocate and stand up for others. It's a big shift, and I think that the more people in the disabled community who can see themselves as a whole person and defend who they are and celebrate who they are, the better we all become. But
exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of advocacy to do, but it starts with us as an individual and goes from there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got about 10 minutes left. I think now let's jump down to question number 14 because I I want to talk about that if it's all right. We've got I think 3 questions left that we can build on.
Okay. So we have some pitches for shows we think you would be great in. One is a guest appearance in Law and Order SVU.
Yes.
As an investigative journalist researching a serial killer who finds a breakthrough clue that she has to deliver to Detective Olivia and Elliot, but the serial killer knows who she is, and it's only a matter of time before they find you. In the other pitch, you have your own 13-episode reality show that's based on the subjects from your book. You have a camera crew that follows you around, and guest stars appear to play fiction.
Yeah, personification.
Of the episode's theme.
But
that'd be fun. But it's funny, like with the reality show one. Like I really, and my mom says this a lot. Like I really am a pretty boring person. Like I'm a real homebody. Like so, I feel like the reality show would be extremely boring. I just
want to encourage you to think about that though, because like Jerry Seinfeld is literally built around doing nothing.
About nothing. That's one of my favorite shows. Yeah, doing absolutely nothing.
There's so much subject matter, and it's such good material for thought, and all I can say is that if it was something that was, you know, able to come together, it would be amazing. Natalie loves Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and we've always joked around about like getting her on Brooklyn. Well, they're not producing shows anymore, but
well, it ended.
yeah, but we always had this idea that, you know, she and her partner Katie were going to be guest stars on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We joke around about it, about a pretty extensive storyline that we built out. And I was just thinking, like, you know, for you, the Law and Order pitch would be a really good one, because the show, you know, the theme, you could probably, like, you know, work with writers to completely fit it into, you know, their storyline and keep it. What's the word?
And see, that would be an opportunity where you have disability representation, but the whole plot of the character would not be about their disability.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. It's on the. It starts with you being an investigative journalist, but the cat and mouse with the serial killer while you're
yes.
You know, sleeping it out would be really cool. I'd love it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, like I said, if Ali Stroker can be on Only Murders in the Building, why couldn't
exactly
be on SVU?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're gonna. I wish we knew people, but we're gonna talk to our people. SVU, and see what happens.
And too, Dad, I mean, come on. I mean, there's still chances that Brooklyn Nine-Nine could come back with the renewal.
Yeah.
I mean, rest in peace, Andre Brower, but they could come back in some sort of way and still honor him.
Love that. Okay, so our second to last question, we're gonna move into the Disney revival period thing, and this was an interesting conversation too, because the shows that you watched were so different from what Natalie grew up with, and
I know it sounds like it.
Yeah. Nat, do you want to maybe start with just Finding Nemo and kind of go from there?
This is your question, man.
Well, no, I'm asking you to just kind of like talk about what it was like to watch Finding Nemo. Do you remember?
I mean, yeah. So I know you grew up like watching Beauty and the Beast, Melissa, but with me, for the first time, well, from what I remember is my first thing I can remember is watching Finding Nemo, and that's actually the first time I ever saw a disability representation in a movie for myself, actually. And
cool.
Knowing Pixar, actually, it's a Pixar movie too, which is cool. And reason why I'm saying that is because I remember this because it was Mom and Dad that told me from it, because so I'm saying that because Finding Nemo, what they told me was I'm not nervous, yeah, nervous maybe, but anyway, so Nemo was basically has a little hand like me, and from the story that Dad and Mom told me, we came out of the theater and I said that Nemo has a little hand like me.
Cool.
She recognized it in the film.
So I was 3 when the movie came out, and the movie came out in 2003, so I'm the same year as the year.
Yeah.
Basically.
But
cool.
It was like a really big deal for us when I think Angela was just crying in the film because when she realized that the character was about Nemo and Nemo has a little fin, and because when Natalie saw it, that she was pointing at the screen and said, he has a little fin like me, and
Oh, neat.
we're like beside ourselves. But a lot of the characters are in the animations that we watch. They're not necessarily human, but the representation is there, and Nat has always like loved the animated films. So DreamWorks and Pixar and Disney and other films actually have some just really wonderful characters. Nat, did you grab the movie, or do you have that for reference?
Yeah.
But she doesn't have her camera on, so you'll have to describe it. So
yeah, George Lucas, it's so funny, said that this is basically the girl version of Star Wars. He described it.
Oh, neat.
That's what he said. At the time, this movie came out in 2015. I absolutely loved it. It's a family favorite at our house, but it's called Strange Magic, and the pinpoint of the film is everyone deserves to be loved, and
Oh,
in the end, she ends up falling for a guy who loves her for being herself, and you'll just learn about. It's just an incredible film, basically.
yeah, it's a fun film, but it's got a lot of music in it
I
too.
have to add that
Good
to
music.
my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the movie recommendation that we were.
Yeah, it's on.
Neat. I'll have to add
if
that
you
to my
have,
list.
yeah, it was on Disney. If you have Disney Plus, it's on Disney. But anyway, it's a good.
Neat.
It's a fun film to watch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that sounds good.
yeah. So we've kind of reached the end of our time, and I think we have just the one question that we ask all of our guests. Nat, do you want to ask the drum roll question?
Every time every guest gets this question, Melissa, when they're on our podcast, and the final question is, what does inclusion mean to
A
you?
little scared. With what inclusion?
Yeah, what is inclusion? Yeah.
Yeah, what does
For
inclusion?
me, inclusion.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
It
what does
means, I
inclusion mean
think,
to you? Sorry.
It means, I think, to me, that disabled people have a seat at the table in all facets of life, and that we are included in decision making, and that we are listened to, and that we are not we're not shunned, we're not scorned. And I think for so long disabled people have been cast aside and not listened to, and a lot of times just ignored as if we're not even there. And that has not only stalled the disability justice movement, but it has made disabled people like myself sometimes feel really bad about ourselves and really chip away at our self-esteem and our self-worth. And I think the more that we are, the more that we take up space, and that's what I'm really happy about with my book, is like my book, hopefully on bookshelves all across the country and the world, that my book will actually take up space on someone's shelf, and that it will, show disabled people in a way that society, I don't think, has ever really thought about. And I think the more that we're included, and the more that we advocate for our own needs and our own, telling our own stories and telling our own narratives, I think that is going to shape how disabled people are seen in the present and in the future. That's my hope. That's my hope, at least.
100%. And I love that. I will tell you that your book will be definitely keeping space on our shelf. We actually have an order that will be delivered after the release on March 5th. And we've already found somebody that we're going to go ahead and give that book to, because we have our copy from you, and now we're going to pay it forward.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a good friend who is the president of the Special Olympics Utah that's going to be getting the book.
Good.
But
Awesome.
Oh, and your and what inclusion means to you definitely reminds me of the see the the chairman of Special Olympics' answer, as always. He always says, what inclusion means to him is everyone deserves a seat at the table. That's what Tim Schreiber says.
Yep.
That's
what exactly.
Yeah. That's what he says to me and my partner and unified partner, Katie.
Yeah, exactly. and I think a lot of times what disabled people have done is if there's not a seat, well, we make our own. We're going to get in there whether society wants us to or not. And I think I think even like the last few years in writing this book has made me so proud to be part of the disability community. It is an amazing community of like people that really want to make a change and that are really working towards a better tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I will definitely say that you are one of the voices that we follow, and we're very much in support of that idea that there's a new, better future for everyone. But it does mean that we have to fight for that, and having advocates who are willing to be the voice and to also be the face of a disability inclusion movement, I think is just really incredible. So.
Well, good, and I'm really glad. Yeah, I appreciate all the work that you guys do with your podcast, and like having those important voices on and having those types of conversations.
Yeah. Well, this is fun. We'd like to get on and talk to people that we're fans of. So, I do think I shared this already, but Natalie, this was hand drawn by her on. Oh, you're not on video, but it's the picture that I sent.
I saw it. I think you sent that in the email. Yeah, I saw it.
We have the physical.
I love it.
We can send something like that along with the package.
Oh, Natalie, do you mind if I share that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good.
That was my first time doing my traditional art in forever.
Yeah. But
I love it.
Well,
awesome.
Thank you so much. We're definitely looking forward to getting this out and also seeing the release of your book on Monday. I have to tell you, we're very excited about that and just super, super happy.
Thank you. It's very exciting. I think that it's going to be a busy week next week.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it is. Yes, that's exactly what it will be. Okay, we're watching you on social media afterwards, but thank you again, and look forward to hearing from us. We'll definitely get.
All right, well, you guys have a good day. Thank you so much.
Be well.
Yeah,
bye.
Melissa, bye.